Today I have an SAT reading tip for you that deals with questions about purpose. So to illustrate this tip, I'm going to use questions 2 and questions 9 from SAT practice test 8. So I'm not going to go through and read the whole passage because I just want to keep these tip videos a little bit shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at question 2 and question 9, and then I'm going to use them to illustrate this tip. So we have the main purpose of lines 1 through 10 is to do what? Now in this case, since it's just 10 lines, I'm going to go ahead and go there and we'll read through it, and then I'll help you decide on what the purpose is, because in order to answer this one, you would need to read on a little bit. But obviously we don't have time to read through the whole thing. So we have, even then my only friends were made of paper and ink. At school I had learned to read and write long before the other children. Where my school friends saw notches of ink on incomprehensible pages, I saw light, streets, and people. Words and the mystery of their hidden science fascinated me, and I saw in them a key in which I could unlock a boundless world, a safe haven from that home, those streets, and those troubled days in which I could sense that only a limited fortune awaited me. Alright, so what is this showing? Well, we know that it's showing that this narrator obviously has a strong passion for writing and for reading, right? Those words and the mystery of their secrets or their hidden science fascinated him. He saw them as a key that he could unlock a boundless world, a safe haven from the struggles in which he grew up in. So it's really describing his passion for writing and reading here. Now, as the passage goes on, because for this one you would have to have read the whole passage to understand it, because this main purpose question, whenever you have a main purpose question, sometimes it helps to understand the big picture, and oftentimes it does help to know the big picture. Now in this case, the big picture is that his drive and his passion for reading and writing are ultimately what is going to drive his actions throughout this story, right? And now what the rest of this passage really talks about is his relationship with some peer and reading, and his relationship really with reading and how that helps him escape from his life at home and his prospects for his future. So let's take a look at our answer choices and let's talk about the main purpose and some tips for main purpose questions. So obviously one thing I've talked about in another video I made, I can't quite remember which one, but that's the use of the word main in the SAT reading section. Anytime you see the word main purpose or primary focus, anytime you see the words main or primary, that should be indicating to you that you want to look big picture. So in this case, you want to look big picture, what's the purpose of including these lines? All right, well, let's think. If we look at our options here, we see that option A says introduce the characters who play a part in the narrative story. There's only one character we're talking about here, okay? The only character we're concerned with at this point is the narrator. So that's wrong because it's saying plural characters and we're only talking really about one. Option B, listing the difficult conditions the narrator endured in childhood. Okay, that right there, you'd be focusing in too narrow on the fact that he did grow up in poor conditions. That's not the main focus of these lines though, and that's not the main purpose of these lines. The main purpose here is we're describing that passion that is driving the narrator in all the actions that he recounts later on in the passage. Now obviously you haven't read the passage, so you don't quite understand that, but what you should see is that the whole point of including this is it's showing the passion that he has for reading, right? It talks about how it's his escape. He describes it as a key to a boundless world. Those are all things that are really describing that massive passion that he has for reading and writing. And then we have option D, depicting the narrator's aspirations before he met some peer. Now, it's not really talking about his aspirations really, right? It's just talking about how he's really driven and really passionate about reading. Now, while that may seem to some people like it's an aspiration would really be more like something he dreams about doing, okay? In this case, we're just describing how he's escaping from his world and how he's passionate about reading because it's providing him as this outlet, okay? So option D would be incorrect. Also, if you read further on in the passage, you'd notice that it really doesn't touch on his aspirations much. So that would really be getting away from the big picture as well. Okay, so answer for number 2 is going to be C. Now let's take a look at question number 9. Number 9 is a similar, it's also a purpose question, but it's a little bit different in the type of purpose question that it is. So let's take a look at question 9. We have the word friend is used twice in lines 57 to 58 to do what? Okay, now in this case, it's a little bit less of a big picture question, okay? This type of purpose question, and you may not see the word purpose in here. Okay, obviously the word purpose isn't in here, but it's still a purpose question because it's asking us for what the purpose of including the word friend is. Okay, why are we including friend twice in lines 57 to 58? So a purpose question doesn't always have to include the word purpose. Sometimes you just have to realize that it's asking you for what the purpose of doing something is. Okay, why is the author including the word friend twice in lines 57 to 58? So once again, let's go ahead and take a look at lines 57 to 58. Okay, we see that it talks about, I'll give you some context as well. So Sempier, he is a bookstore owner who is a friend of the narrator, and he gives the narrator books for much less than they're worth, and oftentimes for free, right? So he's talking about how Sampeer is giving the narrator a book by Mr. Dickens, okay? And the narrator asks, is he a friend of yours? And Sampeer says, a lifelong friend, and from now on he is your friend too. So in this case, what is the purpose of including the word friend to describe the author of this book that Sampeer is giving to the narrator? Well, what it's doing is it's showing that Sampeer is really, really close to this author. Now, Sampeer probably has not met this author because if you know Charles Dickens, you know he's a very, very famous author. Um, so it's unlikely that this bookstore owner is actually friends with him, but he feels like he's friends with him because he has this close connection with reading. So what this is really doing is this is emphasizing that emotional connection that Sampeer feels to reading since he's describing him as a friend, and also saying that he will hopefully be a friend of the narrator. So C is the obvious correct answer here. Let's go ahead and run through A, B, and D and show why they're wrong as well, though. So we have option A, underline the importance of the narrator's connection to Sampeer. Well, we're not describing the narrator and Sampeer as friends here. We're talking about Charles Dickens. So answer there is going to be wrong because that's an incorrect relationship. And that's a wrong answer choice type you want to watch out for on the SAT is an incorrect relationship. You'll see that on the science section sometimes as an incorrect answer as being a reversed relationship. In this case, for the literature section, oftentimes it's just an incorrect relationship. Now, option B, stress how friendships helped the narrator deal with this difficult situation at home. No. Okay, in this case, we really want to focus on the fact that it's an author they're talking about being friends with. Okay, now that's that close connection that they're forming through reading. Okay, that's really what we want to focus on there. Now, option D, implying that the narrator's sentiments caused him to make an irrational decision. That's just really way off topic. Nowhere do we describe an irrational decision. That one's wrong. It's really just an off topic answer choice that will be incorrect for that one. So hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, have a great day.